Outfits. Once you finish up in the gear menu, you can save your favorites to a preset slot. It will make it easier to change between outfits for different challenges. This has been your Biomutant tutorial.
Welcome to Biomutant.
Yep, that is indeed a biological mutant.
Yes, it's a bit of a creature, isn't it? Part cat, lemur, maybe some raccoon in there, a dozen other animals. I am not quite sure. Actually, we should go about this in order. Pause. This is where I pause the video to deliver exposition, because this needs some much needed backstory. So in 2021, a game was released in pretty much all platforms. It was titled Biomutant. It was developed by a very new studio named Experiment 101, which is based on Stockholm, Sweden. The game was published by THQ Nordic, which is based in Vienna, Austria. So this is a very European game. In ways that are both painfully obvious, and I forgot the second part, but...
Oh, is it the classic Eurojank aesthetics?
Okay, Eurojank is a bit offensive because I think this game looks nice for the most part. It has problems, several problems in fact, and I will address them. However, that's not why I am here fundamentally. I am not here to pile on this game or ignore it like most people have when it came out. In fact, I don't have any data in front of me about the success or failure rate of this title.
I heard it got mixed reactions, generally.
I agree with that. I mean, I understand that. I get that. After spending 50, 60 hours on it, I can say with a certain amount of certainty that it has issues, but at its core, there is a very enjoyable game. And that's what I'm here to do. I want to illustrate why I enjoy this game so far, in spite of some of its many flaws, some of which are more obvious than others. This is a massive game, an open world game with a lot to do, and it's impressive that it was made by 20 people, a team of 20 people. So of course there are bound to be some bugs and glitches and all of that.
Yeah, I've heard that this game's mixed result was the classic tale of small team getting too ambitious.
Well, this is not quite a Daedalic Entertainment Gollum situation. That game was a much sadder story, but I do believe this is a story of a game that was mostly ignored. It just came and went as soon as it came out in 2021. It feels like a relic of a bygone era, even though that era is a couple of years ago. It was some sort of flesh in the pan, but without the pan in which to land the flesh. It generated no buzz, no interest, and as soon as people were finished with their first impressions, which admittedly were quite bad, this game sort of entered a phase of oblivion.
Yeah, I've seen a video from channel Wicked Wish, which has this series, what was it called? What Did Go Wrong? And it's talking about these kinds of mixed gaming projects that had a lot of problems with their developments and see
I'm
what
sure
did
this
go wrong.
one was exactly the case because, like I said, the small team, massive game. Honestly, it could have come out a lot worse. Instead, what we have here is a fine game at its core with some problematic aspects circumnavigating it. And I am here tonight specifically to illustrate both the good and the bad, starting from the good because, unlike what this game did, I actually want to give out the best impressions first. And that's foreshadowing, by the way. So, I am actually going to play a video. a gameplay video illustrating my typical playthrough of this game, and I am, generally speaking, in a good position to showcase what this game is at its best. So that's where we are starting, not from the beginning, but from somewhere in the middle. Are you ready?
Yeah, so this is from the part where it actually gets good.
So let's begin then.
How long is this video going to be?
Don't worry about it.
Okay.
Unpause. So I am illustrating a couple of outfits, as you can see. There is a crafting component to this game, a crafting core, which admittedly is a very overplayed trend in AAA or even relatively smaller games. However, I am going to go out on a limb to say that this game does crafting better than every other game I've ever played. In fact, it makes it so good, so fundamentally appealing, that it pretty much sold this game to me. You see all of these weapons? This giant Buster Sword with a circular saw stuck in the middle of it and an ice cream barbershop handle. I made this weapon. I constructed it with various parts. And I am going to start this in the most strong way possible by showcasing to you what kind of insane weapons I can make through this crafting system. Look at this. This is part keyboard, part axe handle, or whatever it is that I have attached it to. I can...
Is it also electric?
Yes.
There were some sparkles.
It does electric damage. Look at this. This does ice damage. This does fire damage. And of course it has a circular saw attached to it for good measure. I can take several pieces of anything, attach them together, create new effects and new weapons out of them. We have several types of weapons, crush type, slash type, both melee and distant. And I am going to start this off properly by building such a weapon with one of a few of the many materials I have with me. Look at this. This is a literal life-size piece of a washing machine. It does cold damage. I have decided to use that as the base, so now I am choosing a handle to attach to it for maximum damage. The damage output is reported there on the right. Up above there is the weapons rating, which also influences the kind of damage it can do. There's the rarity, the level of elemental damage, a whole lot of stats, if you will.
How necessary is the usage of crafting system? Could you play this just with the items you find naturally, or
you could.
Is this an integral part?
It's not... Well, yes and no. If you want to have a challenge and want this game to be much harder than it needs to be, you can just find a weapon and use it. But honestly, what's the point of playing this if you can't indulge in crafting? Well, look at the things I can create. Look at this is supposed to be a gun! There is no point, if you can't enjoy the crafting, there is almost no point in playing this game. The crafting is what makes or breaks this game. That is a trombone. I have a trombone. And I'm making a shotgun out of it. I am making a shotgun out of the base of a trombone. I want you to understand this.
Did you give that shotgun's name? I see the name's... okay, it changes the name based on what...
Yes, it changes the name based on the things you're attaching to it. I'm going to...
Scatterskrex.
I am going to acknowledge the weird and bizarre naming conventions in this game a bit later.
Yeah.
So I could attach the end of the trombone, but instead I attach this because it does more damage, and the bloody thing looks much weirder now. But hold on, I am noticing an issue. Right there at the bottom you have the items you need in order to craft this weapon. The resources, if you will. I don't have enough of rubber. But it's okay because I have 100 million useless things carrying in my bag, so I can just easily disassemble one of them and get the resources I need in order to finish this construction. Look at the fun little garbage I can attach to this gun. So it's a shotgun built out of a trombone and the grip of a magnum. Now tell me this isn't fun. Tell me this isn't a fun concept.
Yeah, it seems like a crafting system that would be actually something I could try with.
Yes, I too dislike crafting, but mostly because it is often poorly implemented. It is something that's there because it has to be there, because it's the corporate checklist of trends that needs to be adhered to at all costs. This is a game that was properly built around the core mechanic of crafting. Crafting your weapons, also attaching implements to your clothes, so you can craft both armor and weapons, essentially. And crafting weapons is the most fun you could possibly have. Basically, it's the Dead Rising philosophy of crafting, in which you can combine two or more antithetic items together, objects, and create a brand new weapon that's fun to use. And I'm going to say this. Crucially, there is no degradation in this game. So it's all the fun of crafting something absurd and powerful without any of the drawbacks. Which means, yes, I am going to say it, this game does crafting better than Tears of the Kingdom. There, I said it.
I'm just wondering what Skrek and Herc mean.
Well, here's the problem. The naming convention in this game, as I mentioned, is very weird. Because this... In order to explain why that's weird, I would have to explain the whole premise of the game, and now is not yet the time to do that. Now we're just having fun with something very uncomplicated but very fun. And here it is, a big old shotgun. So I've just crafted a crush weapon and a range weapon, and I'm going to showcase them right now as soon as I fight someone or something to kill. So I have the big washing machine club, which does cold damage. I have the shotgun. And I'm going to be honest, it's not great. The shotgun as a weapon is not great in this game. But nevertheless, I will showcase it to you. There it is.
There was some...
Yes. Don't be shy.
Yeah, there seemed to be some sound effects.
Yes, this game
like
has
comics.
Comic cartoon sound effects, as if it were an episode of Batman in the 1960s. Which is cute, but also I don't feel like it fits the setting.
Yeah, the graphics should be more stylized. If
There are a
fitting
lot
better.
of choices. A lot of choices were made in regards to this game that are a bit tonally antithetic to each other. Because when it comes down to it, this game is a post-apocalyptic science fiction fantasy story. Which is weird because it is also, weirdly enough, Kung Fu Panda? One of those things is not like the other, is what I'm saying.
You got the best of that.
Yes, yeah, this seems like this is happening at the same world as that 1930s short animation where humanity destroys itself in a war and then the animals find the Bible and rebuild the society.
You mean Peace on Earth, 1939? Yes, the MGM short. Funny you should say that, because I mentioned this earlier in a series I was doing with the bar, the latest Let's Play series specifically, about Inherit the Earth. I noted that there is a genre, a very niche genre of fiction that's not often talked about, and I like to call this genre the post-apocalyptic anthropomorphic fiction, which, as the name implies, it is post-apocalypse, so post-human civilization, and the animals or other anthropomorphic beings have taken over the world. They are the new humanity, effectively. And this is exactly such a story, and I do believe the originator of this genre was, in fact, Peace on Earth, 1939. I was going to bring all this up later on, but you made me acknowledge it much earlier than intended. So,
seems like you completed a side quest just a moment ago.
right, so there are a lot of side quests. However, I would posit that it is fun exploring this game. Because, and this is important, it all comes together with the core aspect of crafting. Let me explain what the gameplay loop, the core gameplay loop of this title is. You start exploring, perhaps moving closer to an objective or a side quest, like one such quest I'm picking up right now. You find a place to loot, you loot the place, you might find something very good, and you might find new crafting items, and the prospect of finding new items to craft and create new weapons from keeps you going, because crafting, as I said before, is very fun, and that becomes the whole motivator of your adventure. As such, this core aspect becomes the base in which the entire game is built upon. And that works very well for me, as it turns out. Okay, speaking of places to raid and loot, here's a bandit camp. I'm going to showcase the new weapons by killing everybody inside using said weapons. The ones I just crafted. Now, at this point it is worth acknowledging that this game doesn't have the best or most tightly programmed combat system. Your character moves a bit too fast compared to the camera, which is bad, especially when the camera closes up to it in enclosed spaces. It tries to be Devil May Cry, but it doesn't quite have the necessary tightness of its controls, and they are very loose, in fact. But, again, you get used to it. I have gotten used to it, and it's not that bad once you do. And like I said, that's why you create new and interesting weapons, to make your combat much easier and much less tedious. Oh, here's the boss. He's not happy I killed all of its creatures.
Yeah. Why didn't you join with your men to help them, you?
Right.
Oh, I was just mocking the leader for his poor decision to challenge you 101.
Right, yes. Okay, sometimes the boss comes out to fight you with his minions. However, and this already is a pro strategy I found out completely by accident, if you do not go 2 inside the camp, when you start attacking the minions, the boss will not show up. So you can have a one-on-one fight with it, essentially. Look, I found a very cool new little piece of loot.
Flat.
Very rare loot indeed. This makes me salivate.
I was trying to decipher what those things were.
Right. So this is a whole new world where animals have taken over, and they have given their own names to objects and things. It's not very consistent though, because some of the names, the name conventions from the old world have been retained, some have not, and they have been called a different way. For example, why is a cryogenic module called cryogenic module and not Big Freezy or something like that? Because every other thing is named with a silly, childlike story name. Why are jeans called jeans and not Levi Strauss's or something like that, you know?
Yeah, problem with this kind of made-up languages can be sometimes that if it's too out there the name, then the players may not realize what that object is supposed to be. Or
all the health medicines have their own actual names, but then you have a piece of a washing machine which is named Clothes Soaker or something like that. Or maybe you have a guy that's named Out of Date because he's old, you see?
Yeah, there was that poker, and I have no idea what that was supposed to be.
And then you have a drum magazine, which actually is very clear what it is. And then you have a slugger, which I guess is not the correct name, but it gives you an idea of what it is. It's not consistent. Nothing about this game is consistent. Not the quality, certainly not the tone. And the naming convention is just the peak of the iceberg. But anyway, so you find a place to loot, you complete the area by taking all the most important looting items. Every area has a bunch of objectives to complete, and then you move on to the next, and you craft new weapons if you find something better. Then you save pilgrims, or you punch them in the face. Because yes...
Why did you...
Because this game is a completely arbitrary, completely useless, completely heavy-handed moral system. And I was being too good, so I needed to rebalance it with evil. I'll discuss all of those things. I will discuss...
I gotta hit you, sorry, but I'm too good to... I've been too good lately.
Yes, I have to punch some guy in the face completely unprovoked and be judged for it. Listen. This game... The moral system in this game makes the inane, idiotic karma system from Fallout 3 seem nuanced by comparison. I'll say that much. But honestly, none of that matters, because I am having fun.
So, is this loot randomized?
I'm so happy you asked. Yes, the loot is completely randomized. You never know what you're going to get, but you can determine what you might get, because luck is a stat you can improve.
Yeah, I was wondering if there's also some kind of tier list for rare items that make it are more efficient.
Well, the best item you can get is the ultimate quality item. And you can reach the ultimate level by combining together several objects that are quite high in rarity, but not necessarily ultimate. You can also upgrade said weapons in upgrade stalls, or by switching out and adding other items to your weapons, because yes, even the upgrading system in this game is very well made. you do not need to completely destroy what you created. You can just swap out and add in other features, and it's still technically the same weapon, but better.
Did it read Unstoppable Beak?
Yes, that's the name of the combo I'm pulling. You might have noticed that I have magic powers, as I conjured up a fist from the ground to send a small unit flying. So I am showcasing my best weapons so far. I've already stopped using the ones I've crafted earlier. They were specifically for the purpose of showing up what you can do in this game. Right now I have defaulted to my usual weapons, which are honestly end game weapons. They have made every single encounter in this game kind of a joke. As you can see,
about the item things because I've heard that before this game in third-person view, this was originally supposed to be in isometric view.
I am glad that was not the case. This works relatively well as a third-person action game. The camera controls are not the best, admittedly. There is supposed to be a auto-lock input, but it's entirely unreliable. So you might as well just play this like an action game from 15 years ago. It's fine for what it is. Sometimes, only occasionally, it can get slightly unwieldy, clunky, even janky. But at its core, it is a game that's fun to play, specifically because it allows me to exploit its features to create something truly broken and overpowered. Basically, this is like playing Skyrim. This is how I play Skyrim, philosophically.
Yeah, it seems to have nice vistas as well.
Oh yes, I actually like how the entire world is laden. You can see a important structure or place from a distance, and you can just go there or find a way to go there. It looks nice. It's only a bit in the close-up segments that you notice that some of these polygons are not well rendered, and your character model's fur is a bit on the pixelated side of things. But honestly, it doesn't even matter. This is a small miracle. By the way, I can swim in lava. This game is made by a team of 20 people, and it was very ambitious, and it could have come out a lot worse than it was. Instead, it's a playable, perfectly playable game with some fun ideas. And it's definitely worth discovering. That's my opinion. So, by the way, throughout the world there are several areas that will incur some specific kind of effect. For example, right now we are in a heat zone, which means I receive fire damage. If I don't have protection on me, like the right induments, I will receive damage up until I die. There are several zones like that: heat zones, cold zone, biohazard zones, toxic zone, and also a zone in which you can't literally breathe.
Apparently David Attenborough is narrating the whole thing.
You know, I was going to bring this up. Yes, there is a somewhat annoying and persistent documentary-style narrator, which also doesn't fit the setting or tone at all. But then again, nothing does. This game doesn't know what it wants to be, tonally, narratively, all of that. But again, I
Look
think...
at that sword that the raccoon thing built. Such miracles of life.
Yes. So there is a slider in the accessibility options of your settings that allows you to tone down the number of times in which the David Attenborough wannabe pops up to comment on anything, which is great. Now, unfortunately, that was not a feature when this game launched, which means people were stuck with this incredibly persistent, annoying commentator that would talk over characters speaking. And the characters, which talk their own made-up language, already have their own subtitles, so having David Attenborough over here speaking over them to literally tell you what you are already reading is the epitome of redundancy. It is extra in a way that doesn't add anything. And that's a bit of the story here. But for now, I am following up on a current quest that had me go through this cave, recover a bunch of bugs, I think, that will be important for later. I forgot why. I played this a week ago. But essentially, there are some big scary monsters in the world called the World Eaters, and they need to die. Also, some of the local tribes don't like each other, and I need to make them like each other, I guess. Or kill them all. Because the choice system is about as black and white as a monochrome. A monochrome, period.
Yeah, and then you have to keep everything in balance that you're not too good. Reminds me of Baldur's Gate. Reminds me of Baldur's Gate, where you can't do too many good deeds or otherwise the evil aligned party members will leave.
Yes, that's always been silly. That's a Dragon Age, if I ever saw one. Okay, so I'm adding a couple of neat little features to my current armor, so to speak. Or, as I like to call it, attach random crud on my t-shirt and see what happens. Okay, so you have one-handed slash weapons, which you can dual wield for maximum damage output. I was about to say the best way to play for a damage per second kind of guy. You have the two-handed slash, which is big sword, essentially. You have the crash weapon, which is a big hammer. And then you have ranged weapon. Ranged weapons, you can have guns, which you can also do dual wield. You have shotguns, rifles, and automatic rifles. So lots of genre of weapons and lots of different abominations to make. Ancient rap bar something or the other. Okay then. So I'm going to do this. I am testing out the weapon, as you can see. I made a minor change to it to see if it's better. Any questions?
So yeah, first you use the fire axe and then you say, "Oh, is that too hot? Let me cool you down."
Yes, I like the contrast. I freeze them with the cold axe and I burn them with the other axe. It's fun. Why not? My dual-wielded guns, they are powered by toxic and biohazard powers, which arbitrarily, according to this game, they are supposed to be opposites. I don't understand what the difference is. Biohazard is green and toxic is purple. That's literally the only difference. I don't understand why it has to be two different elements when it's clearly both are clearly meant to be radioactive damage. Anyway.
Yes, do you prefer melee or range combat in this?
Oh, I use them both. It's very easy to switch between the two of them. Well, let's just say that the big, scary monsters are much easier to take down from a distance. I could honestly never use melee weapons and be fine. But I guess it's more fun to get in there and do a couple of cool moves. You know?
Yeah.
You wouldn't want to play Devil May Cry just with guns, now would you? Devil May Cry time. Okay. I made a bit of a jump there.
Okay, so
Okay,
now you're doing side quests.
Yes, well, that's 100% of what I do in this game. I don't often do the main quests. And I needed something to show off in this playthrough. Something that was not spoilery for the main story. If you care about such things, honestly, there is no reason to care about the story. And I will explain why in due time.
Did you shoot like balloons?
I think I did. They were like balloons. I am not following any of the plot here. I'm just doing what I'm told because it's an excuse to go places, loot places, get new things, use the new things, have the cycle continue, etc., etc. This kind of quest is going to reward me with something new. Something potentially cool for me to use. Maybe a new weapon or... Oh. Right. Did I mention you have literal shoulder devils and angels in this game? That pop up whenever you do something good or bad and they comment on it relentlessly? Because it does.
Okay, then they don't have the made-up language.
No, they speak perfect English. For some reason. This game is not very consistent. Did I mention that it's not very consistent? Anyway, let's see what I've gotten. Ooh, what's this? Why? It's a new top mode for my guns. Let's test this out then. Let's attach it to something, see if it's better or worse than what I already have. This is how you upgrade your weapons effectively. Let's see. Do I... Yes, the damage output is greater for my automatic rifle. And... I will attach it there. Yes, no, yes, yes, no, yes, no, no, yes, yes. Here we go. Here we go. Now it is slightly more unhinged than it was before.
So, what did it add exactly?
Better damage output.
Oh, yeah.
That's why you... That's what you do. You create a weapon, then you find a way to make it more powerful by adding random crud on top of it.
Yeah, I was wondering if it did some special extra damage, but just damage.
If you want special skills or special kinds of damage, that's what the base of the weapon is for. Everything else is there to add damage to it. So I am disassembling some materials to get some resources which I need to do the kind of upgrade I wanted to do. And this is the game, basically.
Seems like the soundtrack is a bit too somber for this.
The soundtrack is mostly... There is... Okay, here's the problem with this game. Because it is a gritty post-apocalyptic setting with a Devil May Cry style of combat, and yet it thinks somehow that we are in a kung fu flick. The soundtrack reflects that.
So perhaps it should be more Borderlands tonally.
This is where the ambition hits the wall named reality. Because to do the kind of hyper-stylized game that would be more tonally complementary to the kind of story and the kind of mood that the developers wanted to conjure here, that would require perhaps a lot more money, a lot more time especially. And this is a very, very large game, and the team only had 20 people in it. So it is impressive that this game came out the way it did. But also, it means that there are some very, 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 very obvious shortcuts, such as, most of all, reused assets. Remember that village that we explored at the beginning of this? There are about 30 more settlements that look exactly like that. Oh, and you better believe there are about 50, 60 styles of dungeons that all look the same and are laid out the same way, with even treasures positioned in the very same, well, positions. This game reuses assets a lot. And honestly, I don't fault it for it. This is not a massive AAA game. This is a AA game at best. It had a budget, it had a specific level of manpower, and there is one big guy rolling on a barrel, being very annoying.
Guerrilla mini-boss.
Yes. Also, the fact that, for some reason, even though this is post-humanity, every single critter in this world has decided that their primary aesthetic has to be ancient China, for seemingly no real reason that makes sense within the context and the setting. And it feels a bit culturally appropriative from this European game developing studio too. But then again, it's basically Kung Fu Panda. So it's mostly inoffensive, I would say, mostly.
Yeah.
You still can't help but tilt your head slightly at it.
I do wonder if this actually happens in Earth, or is this a made-up planet?
No, it's definitely Earth, because, again, all of the objects, all of the things you're finding, all of the places you're visiting, they are explicit remnants of human civilizations. Suburban houses, bunkers. Insert Fallout reference here. Oh, humans tried to leave the planet, but that didn't work out. Because rich people are dumb.
So there's no specific real-life landmarks ruined or something?
There are no specific real-life landmarks. No, it's all made up. It is generic enough in that sense. But I will say, I do like how the world looks. It is, as I said, fun to explore for the reasons I've already explained. I like that the important landmarks are visible from a distance, and you can just run towards it. I like that the loot is randomly generated and you never know what you will find in it. So it's always a surprise. It's fun. It's fine. This game is fine, guys. I love it. It was a revelation for me because I did not have any expectations whatsoever. But I found myself having tons and tons and tons of fun with it.
Yeah.
Because in spite of all the problems that it has, and we have not even begun scratching the surface on that, this game has a strong core gameplay, in my estimation, and it's really doing it for me for the same reason that I like Skyrim. I like a game that allows me to be a little creature, in this case literally, a little gremlin going around, looting places, killing people. A dress-up game.
Power fantasy.
I'm not even sure it's a raccoon. It is several animals put together because of Biomutant. It's Biomutant.
It's Rakunk or Skokoon.
It's I think this one is primarily a cat and a lemur. Although the hind legs throw me off for a bit. Okay, so as you can see, this was a random gas station that we just looted. You find these places all over the map. The world is quite large. It's not Skyrim large, but I like it better because it means it's more compact and better laid out.
Yeah.
Because I'll be honest with you, navigation is not the most fun thing to do in
I
Skyrim.
I think Skyrim's size is 36 square kilometers or something.
The problem with Skyrim is that it's not really fun or easy to find the places you want to go. So you wound up trying to climb mountains you're not supposed to because that seems like the shorter way. In this game, the most important landmarks are visible from a distance, and if you go there going in a random direction will always yield such places for a quick looting event. And most of the quests here are about going somewhere, finding a puzzle to solve, and then go to the next place, finding another puzzle to solve. They are very straightforward. There is very little fat in the way these quests work. But that also means that there isn't much of a story to be found in anything you do. And if you are the kind of person who plays RPGs for the stories, first of all, what's wrong with you? I mean, unless it's a Disco Elysium where there's no combat and it's all about experiencing the narrative and the world, then most RPGs are no fun for the stories. This is the kind of game that you want to experience if you crave action and a good, fun, solid crafting system that allows you to do better at action. This is the game for me. It is the perfect game for me to relax to. It is a familiar place, a familiar space. I played it on and off for the better part of a month by now. The end is not quite near, but it is starting to be in sight. But before I even get through that, I want to complete everything I can. All the side quests, all the looting, all that I can do.
You don't see many old shops like that.
Yeah.
And there is another guy on a barrel, and also some kind of dark entity, and they're fighting each other.
Okay, so there are some kind of demon creatures?
I think they are creatures of literal darkness because there is a clunky, poorly implemented idea of a spirituality here because it wants to be Kung Fu Panda, as I explained it. It doesn't fit the setting, the nature of the setting. And the problem is that this game has ideas, right? It has many ideas. It
And
wants to be a Kung Fu action drama with a spiritual core to it, a supernatural core to it. It also wants to be a post-apocalyptic science fiction. And then in the center of the world there is the World Tree from Nordic mythology and 4 big knee dogs eating at the roots of the tree. So there's Norse mythology in here too, for no reason whatsoever. It is very confused and confusing about its own mythology and lore. It just borrowed blindly from whatever it could find. And the end result is... well, the end result is simply don't care about the story, just be here for the gameplay.
Yeah.
Just be here for the parts that are actually fun.
It seems like the development team didn't do the proper process of what ideas we are going to keep and what not, and just throw everything in.
Okay, well, Matti, I cannot wait for you to play Brock the Investigator at some point, and we can have this conversation properly. By the way, Brock the Investigator, another example, coincidentally, of a post-apocalyptic anthropomorphic fiction, as it is explicitly a post-apocalyptic world where animals are the new humanity. Among many other things, there are surprisingly a lot of stories that have this exact premise. There's the game Solatorobo and Fuga, which are part of the same universe. There are the Sonic Archie comics. I guess technically my fanfiction counts. Technically. There's the comic and the town. Have you heard about that?
Comic, what was the name?
And the town.
End Town, no.
Well, that's another example. And definitely the Planet of the Apes prequel trilogy from a few years back. That's definitely a post-apocalyptic anthropomorphic fiction in the process of happening.
Oh yeah. I haven't seen yet the War of the Planet of the Apes, but I see the 2 others.
They are shockingly good, in a way that top-level, expensive Hollywood films never really are, if I'm being perfectly blunt. And 100% of the reason is because of the excellent emotive stop-motion animation and Andy Serkis leading the entire thing.
I'm trying to think of other things. Well, there is 9, but that is with puppets instead of animals.
It still counts. They are anthropomorphic creatures. They are anthropomorphized, the puppets. And they are literally succeeding humanity. And here's an example of a puzzle you can do in this game. Simply align the colors, and that's the puzzle.
So are they as simple as in Skyrim?
Simpler. Well, except for when there is the occasional very hard puzzle that wants me to do algebra. I'm not a fan of that.
What was the reason for that turning on that film?
Because, so you see all of this area, it's full of little blue dots. Most of them are puzzles that I need to go there and solve them. One such case was repairing a cinematograph. There are a bunch of cinematographs and other such old world items to repair throughout the globe. And completing said side quests will yield a new fangled weapon for you to use. So that's also a great motivator, because you never know what you're going to get. What kind of weapon or add-on material can you get from a cinematograph, for example? Anyway, let's conclude this positive review of Biomutant by showcasing my Duck Gundam, which I have. Yes, you get a giant robot in this game, and yes, you can customize it.
So I suppose this is helping in defeating those world eaters or something.
No, only one of them. Unfortunately, you can only use this mecha in this specific area called the Dead Zone, which is literally breathtaking. As you can see, Hypoxia Zone. The robot doesn't control very well, but, on the other hand, look at it go! It's a giant Duck Gundam, and I am scorching the earth. Tell me this is not fun.
Yeah, more games need giant mechas.
Well, I would say more games need optional giant mechas, because controlling them might get old. But I appreciate the fact that you have the option to use a big, beefy robot that you can customize. You can make it a duck or a rabbit or whatever it is you want. And now I'm just finishing my current showcase of what's good about Biomutant. Doom Duck. My intent was to show you and everyone else that this game is fun at its core. Its main issue, well, one of its many issues is that it didn't start up the best way. It did not begin the game itself, I should say, by giving out the best first impressions. And unfortunately, most of the people who tried this game only have those first impressions. And let me tell you, they're not good. Justifiably so.
I guess many role-playing games have the problem of starting slowly.
Yes, Skyrim has that. Fallout games have that. But this game goes the extra mile in that particular direction. And now that I have shown you what the game can be at its best, I'm going to showcase to you how this game actually starts. And
there's another video.
Oh yes. And after that, all the pieces of the puzzles will finally converge, and this story will make a lot more sense. You know, I was never a big fan of the term Eurojank. It implies that anything made in Europe is janky by default, when the reality is that most of the so-called janky games from Europe are made by small teams, or perhaps are shooting above their belts. Because, let me tell you, this full-motion video introductory sequence does not look cheap. In fact, this is where most of the budget might have gone to. I want you to really memorize, to really take a look at this introduction. The relatively polished animation, the events unfolding in it, the creature you're fighting against. I want you to truly take it all in and remember this scene. Because it's not bad. It's not bad if the game actually started right after this. It gives it a sense of urgency, stakes, What happens next?
Hmm.
Well, unfortunately, this happens next.
How can something as big
Now you might be wondering, how did I got in this situation?
Well, that would have been better than this. Now it's time for the David Attenborough guy to lay out the backstory and exposition to make sure you understand
in need of
that this is
someone
about the environment
or bring them all down?
and life is precious, dying is bad, and pollution is bad. This is the second time we see the
Welcome.
title of the game. Welcome to Biomutant indeed. So now we're going to start a new game, which gives me the opportunity to show you the character creator screen. Oh boy.
So this is the most of the bad impressions come from.
Well, not one
Encode your
of the...
DNA.
Well, it's not the best way to start this. In essence, first of all, the kind of species you choose will determine your stats. I've never liked that. It implies that a race of people is either dumber or more intelligent than the next, and it's all determined by genes.
But this is more about species rather than a...
You are
What?
splitting hairs there, my friend. They are the new humanity, which means even though the game calls them breed, they are effectively the many races of this world.
Yeah, I suppose the stats will be more determined by which class you choose.
There's that too, but this is not even the biggest gripe I have with the character selection screen, or I should say the character creator screen. I mentioned that choosing your race determines your initial stats, but not only that, customizing your character to look a specific way determines even more of your stats. So if you want a character that's really strong, he has to look like that.
Okay.
So if you want a character who's really smart, you have to look like that. I don't like this because it carries some unfortunate implications. Implications of the eugenics variety. Genetics, biology are destiny. I'm not a fan of that. It has that very unfortunate subtext. And I don't think the creators of this game were even thinking that much ahead of it, the implications this might have. They just thought this will be a cool character selection creator system that makes you think about what kind of character you want to make. But it seems to me that all it accomplishes is that you cannot have the character you want based on looks because it doesn't match potentially the kind of gameplay you want to prioritize. So already that's a bit of an issue. If you, like me, value the ability to create and customize your avatar the best way that suits your needs and wants.
Pick your main
Yeah, it is a bit of an odd that just choosing what way you look also changes your stats.
Yes, like I said, it carries that potentially social Darwinist agenda. By accident, I'm sure, but
Yeah.
it's still there, and once you notice it, you can't help but not
choose your DNA.
notice it forever.
Pick a
But anyway, I'm making a sparkle dog, in spite of everything. Now it's time to choose the class. Now, the class is a bit of a better situation, because choosing a class will determine what your initial weapons and abilities are. Eventually, you can catch up to everything else. but not at first. Also, classes get their own individual abilities.
Commando.
The class system is real in this game, unlike Skyrim, which has no class system at all.
Deadeye.
Yeah. I guess the developers of Skyrim realized that most players just choose something that combines both combat and magic.
No. Skyrim wants you all to be sneaky archers. Because it's the most efficient way to play. But anyway, that's Skyrim. This is Biomutant. Here we are in the actual start of the game.
Into the spotlight of a story that's already begun.
And right off the bat, I do mean right off the bat, literally, the first thing that happens...
Let me introduce myself. I'm
This.
the light and bright side of you, or your inner voice to be precise.
These freaking little imps just appear to tell you, hey, wait a minute, if you go to the right, you're making a good choice, but if you go to the left, you're making a dark choice. Which is literally, as fork in the road arbitrary as anything can get in the history of video games.
Side is not that, you know.
Yeah. Are these imps even story?
I am not sure what
Importance?
they're supposed to be. Your cartoon angel and devil, because this is a big cartoon, bless you, by the way. And I guess it wants to be a big cartoon, but again, the photorealism throws me a bit off. Oh, anyway, we go right, because apparently we are good people, and only good people vote right. I mean, go right.
Stories of death and the bodies left
Bless you again.
at the mercy of nature.
Thank you for ruining this recording for me.
Oh.
Anyway, we found Bambi's mother. Isn't that great?
The beast that shattered your family.
Oh, so that's where she ended. But
Forget. You
oh, wait,
Man.
isn't that like? Didn't you have a mount like that?
Yes, I do get a mount later on, but now it's not the time.
only grew stronger.
Oh, well, I am checking out a dead creature, and who should interrupt us? As we are doing that in this unskippable cutscene. Why, it's the monster from the introduction. We are fighting it.
Okay, so now we're just doing the cutscene.
You hit the nail on the coffin there, my friend. You have noticed by now that we are essentially replaying the introduction. Because we needed a tutorial for fighting. This makes the introduction completely redundant and pointless. Literally a waste of money. That's just one of the many questionable decisions that this studio made. It is weird, isn't it? You just saw this in the introduction. That's where the game started, and then you start the game, and you are essentially replaying the introduction from start to end, including this scene, including this one.
Better make a run for it. This
There
neither
is
the time nor place.
no point to any of this. So already, by this point, the first impressions are a bit sour. It is several small details and small things that are compounding together to not give you the best of first impressions. This was also my first introduction to the combat, and as I said, the combat is a bit wonky and unwieldy, and you have to get used to it. So at first, it wasn't really fun to play.
Ready for it when it comes.
Evolution has truly gone wrong this time.
I mean, basic evolution is just about what works best for you.
Yes. You know what? Yes, to that. Literally. And also on a broader scientific scale, that's how evolution works. I'm not sure if you can actually call it evolution, considering it is literally called Biomutant, the video game. And this was all caused because pollution is bad. Oh yes, by the way, spoiler, that's the plot. Fern Gully, but post-apocalyptic. So after that less than stellar introduction to this game, which also showcased how bit of a mess the combat system is, and we get into this bunker, which is bunkers. Bunker, bunkers, bunker, bunkers. You know what I mean. And immediately there is a bit of another issue, in that the camera is too close to the character, and the character moves too fast. When I was controlling this little creature for the first time, I was legitimately surprised and taken aback at how fast the character was moving compared to how much control I had on it. I tried to go to the settings to see if there was a way to change the sensibility, but no, this is the rhythm in which the game plays, and that's also another little thing that you need to grow accustomed to. And by now, the list of niggling little details that are starting to compound onto your brain as you played merely 10 minutes of this is growing larger and larger.
How long does it usually take from you to play a game and then decide that it's not worth of your time?
Well, it could be anywhere between 10 minutes and 2 hours. Realistically,
Yeah.
it depends on how horrendous the game is and how much I am not enjoying myself. If there is a sliver of something that might keep me going, I might give it a proper shot. I'm glad I gave this game a proper shot because, as I said, it turned out to be a revelation. But it was a long journey getting to the point in which I could enjoy it without remorse or buyer's regret, as it were.
It's a bit easier for me because if it's bad, well, I can just turn it into a video,
Sure.
make content out of it.
Did you see that? I did a overhead slash, but inverted, but it still worked, and the physics thought I was hitting the guy from the correct side.
Yeah, I was wondering what happened there.
That's pretty funny. Like I said, minor junkiness, nothing to really write home about. Dear Evan, today I learned that Biomutant does not play like Devil May Cry. Writing home about it. Okay. Right. Cool.
Iron wall.
Yes, this guy has a big truck door using as a shield. And apparently that warrants the name of Iron Wall, even though I just destroyed him.
Is there some specific reason why these creatures are hostile?
I am not sure. RPG? You need enemies to kill to get experience points?
They are animals, so maybe they're just territorial.
Think of them as the raiders from Fallout. They are just there for you to kill them.
Look, an emergency box from the once was.
Anyway, we have gotten an old world claw bar, as it is called here. We're going to use it to open doors.
Yeah, why is it called crowbar anyway?
No, it is called the claw bar. Normally, it would be called the crowbar, but see, since this is a...
No, I was wondering the real life thing. Why? What has Crow doing with that
It
thing?
is the shape of it, reminiscent to that of a claw.
No, I was wondering in real life. The
Yes,
word crowbar.
I'm explaining. It's reminiscent of the shape of a crow's crawl.
Yeah.
Crow's claw, damn it!
Yeah.
Anyway. It's time to kill a bunch of biohazardous enemies, which are big bugs, essentially. You've got to have your big bugs in this. They are a bit annoying, but slaughtering them gives you some biohazard points. There is not a better way to call them. Bio points. There you go. And if you're wondering what's the purpose of bio points, well, you have moves and the resistances you can unlock. There you go.
So if you spend enough time in radioactive places, you eventually get accustomed to it.
No, you have to spend the points to grow your resistance to it. Like in a video game or something. Also, you can wear induments that will protect you from the specific kind of damage. Oh, wait! It's time for backstory!
Arcs to save themselves from the
Yeah, this is a bit like too much exposition dump all at once.
It is too much voice narrator all at once, if you ask me.
Yeah.
I remind you, the voice narrators was omnipresent in the original version of this game. It still is now, but you can slide it down a little bit. And that was a point of contention for most people. The fact that it was annoying, the fact that a documentarist imitator did not really fit with the tone here. But then again, nothing really fits with itself in this game, as we have abundantly explained.
There are few records of the chain of
So here is a bit of backstory, in a very cartoonish manner, by the way.
Prepared for how recklessly the Toxanol Corporation would make its mark on the world. Their rare earth
Captain Planet Villains won.
generated tons of waste and
But at what cost?
for the future, they
No, I mean, they literally won and polluted the world. Pollution is bad.
made the
Which, yes, I agree. And yes, game, I agree that it's always the corporations and the rich people who cause the climate change.
sink and
I agree that pollution is bad, and you are correctly identifying the people responsible for it instead of saying, no, all humans are bad because they polluted. I'm glad you're doing that. You are one step above Fern Galley on that.
in their offspring. It had an
However, you're also saying that thanks to pollution, all the mutations happened which led to the current creatures that are currently inhabiting the world living. So pollution is also good?
I mean, yeah, haven't you seen Godzilla?
That's what I'm getting from this very important backstory. A very flimsy, not at all well thought out environmental message that contradicts itself with the simple fact that these creatures exist and you want them to exist because you want to care about them. So pollution is bad because it killed humans, but pollution is good because it gave us life. But wait, now pollution is bad again because it's going to destroy our world too. And also there is inexplicably a tree of life and 4 world eaters eating at its roots and martial arts, and I don't understand what's going on anymore.
the wheeled one is outnumbered.
And this this is the other big point of contention. You are introduced to this character, and immediately, the way this game introduces him is by calling him the Wheeled One. Because he's on a wheelchair.
Yeah.
Which is, I don't need to tell you, that's extremely ableist. You are reduced his entire personality to a disability. That's the humanizing, and that's ableist. And that was the other big point of contention. Again, this is all happening within the first 20 minutes of this game. All of it. One after the other. Boom, 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 boom.
Yeah, this society probably puts heavy emphasis on survival and
Oh, but
these...
wait, hold on. It gets better, because now you get to learn what his name is. Now you get to learn what his name is. Is not the Wheeled One. Thank you very much. So, Wheeled One was the first impression. Okay, it's bad. But then his actual name is out of date. Which means his only other characteristic is being old. So he has two traits. Being old and on a wheelchair. Are you as offended as I am? Anyway, we are skipping all of the dialogue, and now we are back. Now we are flashbacking to the past, and welcome to Kung Fu Panda! Suddenly, ancient China.
Yeah, how long ago this was?
I don't know! And this guy, it's him, but younger, and now named Best Before, and he's an Elvis impersonator, for absolutely no reason other than this is a game for children? Except it isn't? It's not?
Okay, yeah, that's a bit of
All of that, oh my god!
So-
I am losing my mind just to
So
experience
interesting
this.
comeback that you change your name the once you get older, so...
You see, when I was young, my name was I peaked at high school. But now that I am 64, my name is... Waiting to Die. Cool, huh? Boy howdy.
The
This
Cloud
game...
Yeller.
This game, this introduction is even worse than I remember it. Jeez. The Wheeled One, named out of date, was once named Best Before and looked like Elvis in the flashback, which reminds me of Kung Fu Panda, which is probably the kind of tone this game wanted inexplicably to appeal to children. But it's a post-apocalyptic with an heavy emphasis on the post-apocalyptic. Humanity died out. There is violent combat. And yet you still have monsters, world-ending monsters named Huff Puff. With cute names, or Porky Puff. These are the world-ending monsters. And you name them Porky Puff.
I'm going to check which age rating this had.
This is inane. This is insane and inane. Do you see? Do you understand why this game was not well received at first? To get to the good part, you have to get past the introduction. That's a lot to get past, let me tell you. I don't think I've ever seen any... Yes?
Apparently he had too much hype or something.
Like I said, this game came and went and was forgotten instantly. And I think these first 30 minutes are the ones responsible for this situation. Anyway, title drop. This is the third time the title drops. At this point, it's just icing on the cake, really.
I mean, does the loading screen really count?
I was not counting the loading screen. I was counting the first time the title dropped, after the full motion video, then in the menu screen, and then now. Okay, pause right here. We need actually to pause here because this is a crucial moment.
Okay.
So, let's recap what happened in the first half an hour of this game so far, right? To properly have a overview of things. To take it all in, as it were.
So, if I understood correctly, this our hapless hero is just minding their own business, and
now
then
they're coming back to their hometown because evil and pollution and predator and something or the other. It doesn't really matter. I'm not talking about the plot. Caring about the plot is moot right now. I'm talking about everything that happens step by step. First, there is the expensive full motion video introduction, which turned out to be completely redundant because you play that in the tutorial, which means that was a waste of money and time. Cool! Great. Love to see it. You are introduced to the combat system properly. It is not fun at first. It will get there, but not anytime soon. There is backstory, which irritates me. Then out of date appears, and we said everything we could possibly say about it. The flashback, the Elvis impersonator, the third title drop. And now, after all that, here we are. The signpost. This game has fast travel, okay? To enable fast travel, you have to activate a signpost, such as the one we are looking at right now. Right?
Yeah.
Do you know what our little creature does to activate the signpost?
Does it pee on it?
Cartographically challenged.
He pees on it.
I mean, yeah, you have to mark your territory.
Literally marking the territory.
Oh.
So you can add extremely juvenile humor to the mix. And this...
Becky 12!
This right here is just the icing on the cake. After everything else, you have your avatar literally taking the piss.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what you've done. It knows what it's done.
Becky 12 includes violence.
That is how Biomutant is introduced. That is all of its issues front-loaded in introduction.
I just find it amusing that he so much stops it right there. Okay, I could took everything else, but actual pee? No, that's gross, man.
I mean, like I said, that's the icing on the cake, right? That's just, after everything else, now there's pissing on it.
Can you weaponize it?
No, you just use it to activate fast travels. You mark your territory, now you can magically fast travel by pissing on them.
By following the scent.
That's... This game tries to be many things, all at once. It wants
kind
to
of fascinating in a morbid way.
I absolutely agree. It tries to appeal to small children with the documentary-style narrator being very child-friendly, like reading a storybook to them. This weirdly fabulistic kung fu martial arts cartoon. But then you have juvenile humor to appeal to the 12-year-olds, like pissing And then you have violence, and it's a post-apocalyptic world with a photorealistic sheen to it in spite of the cartoonish proportion, which work about as well as you might guess. So it's all over the place. Tonally, narratively, structurally, and it is offensive in some points. Ableist, potentially bioessentialist, all the jolly good stuff. And then it turns out, as you play this game, that none of that actually freaking matters. The corny moral choice system, the story, all that matters is that the game is fun to play at a fundamental level. Those potential themes, problematic themes introduced at the beginning, don't really carry over in the whole game. The whole eugenics, genes, DNA is destiny debacle, that is never really brought up in any meaningful way. The ableism is entirely confined to this one character you don't see very often anyway. Because this game has zero consistency, they introduce and forget elements as soon as they do, but that actually works to this game's advantage. You don't ever have to worry about this game having some sort of subtextual agenda, because it is too dumb to have one.
Yeah, this seems very heavily those kind of projects that focus more on the gameplay than some narrative stuff that is just window
They
dressing.
clearly had ideas, they didn't know how to mesh them together, and they didn't know how to properly tell a story, but they did have two things that worked. They had a world, and they had a crafting system. And that's what saves this game, and that's what it elevates it for me. I will once again reiterate my initial thesis that this game is fun to play, you should give it a shot. Be wary that the beginning is very bad. It's just so bad. But if you can get past that, you will find a game that's worth enjoying. Yes, even with the pointless, corny, idiotic, black and white, literally black and white, moral choice system, I think it will eventually influence the ending you get, but honestly, who cares? Who cares about the story? It is moot to complain about the story in this game. Just enjoy it for what it is, switch off your brain, have a good time. This is Biomutant, and you are welcome to it. And that's my review.
Yeah, probably not something I would be, because I'm one of those weird people who play role-playing games for their stories.
Eee, look at this weirdo. Go play Disco Elysium or something. Ugh, get out of here, you freak. Okay, that's it for tonight's episode of Madhog and Matty's Gaming Dissertations, because I still haven't found a better title for it, and at this point I'm committed. Thank you for joining us. I have been Madhog, Thy Master.
And I've been hedonistic actor.
And I have just realized that editing this is going to be a freaking nightmare. Well, good night, everybody.